Year 7, today we are looking at fractions from diagrams. So to start us off, we've got our starter grid here, 6 questions. What you're going to do is you're going to pause the video, and then on the sheet of paper or your book that you're working on, you are going to have a go at these questions until all 6 of them are finished. Unpause the video, and then with your red pen you're going to mark these afterwards. So pause the video now, off you go on these 6 questions. Okay, so you should have had a go at all 6 of these questions now. Get your red pen ready. Your answers are up on the next screen. So check they're right, tick them if they're right. If they're not right, change them on your piece of paper. Try and see where you've gone wrong if there has been a mistake. Okay, so let's go on to the main part of the lesson. If you need a bit more time marking, just pause the video again, check your answers with the video. Right, so the first thing we're going to look at is a diagram. One part of the diagram is coloured in pink and the other parts are white. So TJ says that this picture shows a quarter coloured in pink. Now have a think to yourself, do you agree with this statement? If you do agree and you think a quarter is pink, why do you think that's correct? What makes it a quarter pink? If you don't agree, why don't you think it's correct? What makes it not a quarter pink? What is a quarter pink if you don't agree? Okay, so for this statement here, TJ is not correct. A quarter isn't coloured in pink. And we're going to talk about why exactly that is in a second. So a fraction can be considered part of a whole. The fraction 1/5 indicates that a whole has been separated into 5 equal parts and one of those parts is being considered. So this bottom number here, which we call the denominator, is how many parts it is split into, so 5 equal parts. And this top number here is the part that we are considering out of those 5 equal parts. Now the key word here is that the denominator is equal parts. So when we look at the last question, where we wondered whether a quarter was shaded in pink, we can see here that this section is a lot bigger than the other 3 sections in the shape. So it's not a quarter because even though it's split into 4 different parts, which is what quarters are defined as, they're not equal parts. So this part here cannot be defined as a quarter. Fractions can also be considered as a quotient. Now a quotient is just a posh word for saying that we divide one number by the other. So for example, the fraction 2/3, we can consider a division and say 2 divided by 3 instead. So sometimes, especially in BIDMAS, you'll see this line here, and it's actually called the quotient line, used instead of divide, because we spoke a little bit before the Christmas holidays about how these dots here are effectively like empty spaces for you to put these numbers in. So 2 divided by 3 is the same as putting 2 up here and 3 down here. So 2/3 is exactly the same as 2 divided by 3. The last way we can think about fractions is as a ratio. So we're comparing 2 numbers. So the fraction 5/8 can be viewed as the ratio 5/8. So what that means is that we have 8 parts in total and we're thinking about 5 of those parts. So 5/8, we can rewrite it as 5/8 instead. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the language we can use with fractions. So we already spoke a little bit how the top number is considered the numerator and the bottom number is considered the denominator, and we said the denominator is the number of equal pieces which a whole or unit was originally divided into. The numerator is the total number of objects or pieces we actually have. So for example, if I wanted to do a quarter, I would have 4 equal parts. So I'm going to draw a square here, and hopefully it won't be too wonky of a square. It's very wonky. We're going to split it into 4 roughly equal parts. Forgive the fact my diagram is not the best diagram. And if I wanted a quarter of this square, I'm only considering 1 part here. So that's 1 part coloured in out of 4 equal parts. So this diagram here is representing a quarter. So for example, if we're talking about 7/4, we mean 7 parts to a whole of 4 parts. Now what that means is that if we had a shape, so for example another square, the bottom number is still 4, so we've still got it split into 4 equal parts, pretend they're equal. The 7 parts at the top, the numerator 7, means 7 of those are shaded in. Now we're going to have an issue with this here because we've only got 4 parts to shade in. So I'm going to shade in these 4 parts to make a start on it. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, but I still want 3 more parts shaded in. Now here's the trick, because a lot of people think we can only have one shape there, but we can still draw another square as long as it's split into 4 equal parts again. There's no reason why we can't have more extra parts here. There's still over 4, which means we've still satisfied this part here, and I'm going to colour in 3 more now to make it 7 over 4. So let's have a look at the answer we have here. So they've chosen to use a rectangle instead of a square, but it's the same thing because we still split it into 4 equal parts. We've coloured in 4 of these, so it's one whole unit because we coloured in the whole shape here, 4 over 4. And we've added on another shape split into 4 equal parts and coloured in 3 of those. So if we added these two fractions together, we have 1 and 3/4, so this whole part is 1, and 3 over 4, 3/4, or 1 whole part and 3/4 rewritten as this. So 7 over 4 is exactly the same as 1 whole part and 3/4, drawn like this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work through the first one, and then in your books you're going to draw the shape on the We Do and have a go at answering yourselves. You pause the video and then you check whether your answer is the same as the answer I've got underneath my square. So the first one, we're going to turn this coloured in part into a fraction of the shape. Now what you're going to do is you're going to draw in the rest of the shape as if it was split into equal parts. So luckily we've got our square again here. So I'm going to split this into another square that matches this one. This one here is another square that matches. So I've got 4 equal parts, which means my denominator, my bottom number, is going to be the number 4. Out of all of these 4 parts, I've only got one of them coloured in, so my top number is going to be 1. So I've got 1 over 4 coloured in this part here. Right, what I want you to do now in your books, please, could you draw this shape in? Can you split it up into these parts here? Now find the other parts to make them equal, and then write this as a fraction based on how many of those parts are coloured in. Pause the video, off you go. Okay, so hopefully you've had a go at this. You should have got the answer of 1/4, because if I split it into more equal parts, like this one here, I've got 4 triangles that make up the shape. Only one of them is coloured in, so the answer is going to be 1/4. Now this one's slightly harder because I've got some pretty uneven parts coloured in, but we're going to have a go at this as well. So once again, I'm going to split this into equal parts. Now because my smallest part here is these squares, I can't split them into these rectangles because they're already split up like this. So what I'm going to do instead is split these rectangles up into these smaller squares like I've got over here. So I'm going to draw a line going down here like this. Now I need to count out the total number of parts in my shape to find out my denominator. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 total parts. So my bottom number, my denominator, is going to be 8. Out of those 8 parts, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 coloured in. So my top number is going to be the number 4. Now those of you that have seen fractions before and really comfortable with these might see another way that we can write this, but don't worry too much at the moment because we're going to look specifically at how we can rewrite fractions later on in another lesson. So if you want to just leave it as 4 over 8 for now, that's perfectly fine. If you want to have a go at rewriting it differently, then feel free if you're very comfortable. Okay, so what I want you to do now is, if you're feeling artistic, have a go at drawing this into your book. If you're not feeling so artistic, just have a go at writing it as a fraction. Split it into equal parts. Remember, our smallest part is the part we're going to split it into, so as a hint, look for the smallest shape you've got there. Find out how many are coloured in and rewrite this as a fraction. Pause the video, off you go. Okay, so you should have split your shape up into these triangles here. That triangles are smaller shape, so I've split all of my squares into those triangles. I count out how many total triangles there are. So there are 18 total triangles, and out of all of those 18 triangles, 8 are coloured in. So 8 over 18 is my answer for this one here. Well done if you got it. Give it a big red tick if you did get it right. If you're not sure where it came from, leave for now, change the answer, and have a go at some of the questions further on. Hopefully you'll have a bit more time to have some practice at this. Okay, so here's the part where you do some work. So on your piece of paper or in your book, whatever you've got at hand that you're writing on at the moment, you need to pause the video, set a time of 10 minutes, or have a look at the time and add 10 minutes onto that. You don't need to draw these out, you just need to write down the fraction. So just write down 1a and then write down the fraction that's being represented from this. When your 10 minutes is up, you can unpause the video and then you can mark your work alongside the answers afterwards. So 10 minutes begins now, off you go. Okay, so you've had plenty of time to have a go at these, hopefully. With your red pen, could you mark these now so the answers are up on the next slide? They go in order from A to O, so just make sure you've got the question numbers down and you've got the right ones next to it. Tick them if they're right and change them if they're wrong, please. Once again, if you need a little bit more time to mark this, you can pause the video, but we're going to move on because there's no point in me waiting around. You can pause it whenever you want to. Okay, so we're going to get a little bit more practice, but looking at some slightly more complicated shapes, so like the ones we looked at before, where we've got to split it up into smaller parts. So what you're going to do now is you can write down the questions. Again, you don't need to draw these, just give it a go with the fractions. Pause it for another 10 minutes or however long you need. Have a go at all 9 of these questions, and then unpause the video and come back to your red pen again. Off you go. Okay, so you've had a go at these ones here again now. With your red pen, could you tick them if they're right and change them if they're wrong? Remember, for all of these, the trick is to split it up into the smallest shape that is shaded in. So I've split it up into equal parts and looked at how many there are in total and how many are shaded. Now when you're done marking this, make sure you've got all of your working outs written down from this lesson. Take a photo of it now and upload it to Firefly, because even if you've done all the work, I won't be able to tell unless I can see it. So upload it to the task so I can have a look and see what you've done, and then have a go at the final question that's on the Firefly task so that you can test your understanding and sign out with your exit ticket. Thank you very much, Year 7. Have a great rest of your day.